Hey Flockers, it's Mike from Epic Duck Studios, and today I'm going to be painting the metallic armor on Legion of Everblight's Azrael. Now, this same process can be applied to any Legion of Everblight model. Compared to the skin or the bony protrusions, painting the armor is really straightforward. I'm going to start with just a base coat of P3 Radiant Platinum. Now in the background you can see I'm using my homemade wet palette. You can find instructions for making one yourself on my channel. So Azrael has a lot of different armor sections. There's his shoulders, his left hand, his head, and these sort of plates all over his hip area. He doesn't really have hips because he has a tail, but anyway, that general space on his body. There's also a few different little O-rings sort of holding leather straps together, and I'm going to be painting them the same color. Because there's so many overlapping armor plates though, you need to look at the model from different angles to make sure you don't miss a spot underneath one of the plates. Now my Radiant Platinum is basically going on in one coat here. There's a few places I go back and touch up, but because it's going over such a light base coat already, when I airbrushed on that blue skin tone, it is really a perfect sort of base color to paint the Radiant Platinum over. And so because of that, this is going on nice and quick and really just going on in one coat. But if it takes you two coats, especially if you've primed in black, that's totally okay. Now when it comes to painting the tip of his spear, because there is a fire effect on it, I'm going to want to transition from the metallic to a blue flame. So I'm painting the metallic area a little bit larger than I need to, kind of spilling it up onto the flames, just so I can do that transition later. So now that the armor is base coated, I want to go ahead and apply a wash to it to define all the details. For this I'm going to be using a 50-50 mix of Citadel Drakenhof Nightshade and Citadel Druchii Violet with just a little bit of water added to thin it down. Now because I don't want the consistency of this wash to change, I don't want water to leach up into it, I'm not using the wet palette here. So I'm just using an old piece of a blister pack to mix the colors and the water in. So with the washes mixed, I'm going to start applying it to basically every bit of the armor at this point. I really want to focus on areas where there's detail sort of concentrated, so there's areas where there's rivets, hard lines between the different armor plates, or there's this scroll work sort of details that the Legion of Everblight have on some of their armor panels. I want to just kind of flood those areas. I don't want it so dark that it takes away from the platinum color, Sometimes you'll see me come back with a clean brush and pick up a little bit of the wash. That's because I felt it went on a little too heavy-handed, and I didn't want it to really take away from the Radiant Platinum. So I just siphon a little bit back up with the brush and dab it away. Now, because I've added some water to the wash, it will tend to disperse a little bit across the surface of the model as it dries, so even though when I apply it, it looks very dark and kind of sticks into a corner, it will spread out as it dries and therefore dry a little bit lighter. So if there's an area where I want a darker line, I'll go back in and just add a second coat later. I do that specifically on the little armor plates dangling from his hip area. While getting the wash into all the nooks and crannies is important, you want to make sure you get it on any of the raised rivets as well. So here you can see I'm now coming in and adding a second coat to some areas I've already washed that have started to dry, because they did dry a little bit on the lighter side than I wanted. After giving the washes about 20 or 30 minutes to dry, I'm just going to come back in with some more Radiant Platinum and brighten up some surfaces that the wash may have dulled down a little bit. This is a pretty quick process and just involves going around the model and brightening up any of the armor plates that I just feel are a little bit on the dull side. I'm specifically also using a little bit of Radiant Platinum to pick out the rivets so they look more raised from their surrounding armor. Wherever some armor plates overlap, I'm also going to make sure to use a little bit of Radiant Platinum as an edge highlight on the overlapping plate to help draw some more distinction between the two panels. Now with these large sort of overlapping plates on his hips, what I'm doing is I'm only brightening up the outer trim area and I'm leaving the interior, the larger flat plate, alone so it has a darker, cooler appearance. Okay, and that's really all there is to my Legion of Everblight armor technique. It's really just Radiant Platinum, a wash, and some Radiant Platinum again. Looks really good, looks really striking on the table, and it's a pretty quick process. It takes a little longer in Azrael just because of his size and the number of different areas, but on Legion of Everblight troops, it's a mere few minutes per model. In coming videos, I'll be discussing how I paint the blue flame on the end of his spear, as well as how I painted Azrael's wing membranes. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, do something epic.